First story. I finally got the revenge I have wanted for 6 years. I lived in a decent neighborhood in a nice house. I owned 3 dogs and lived with my mother, sisters 18 and 4, brother 3, and the star of the show, the entitled Dad. This started when I was 6 years old. Yes, I'm 12, but I had the power of any of you. When my mother met a man, the entitled Dad, and started dating him. He was an imbecile, and my mother loved him. So I let the fact go that he drinks, abuses the animals, manipulates my sister into doing horrible things. My mom dated him for 5 years and always suspected him of cheating, but she still married him. I did not have the best childhood, but without this experience, I will probably be a pimp. This is where the story actually begins. The entitled Dad was coming home from what he said was a business trip. The airport was a good hour away from our house, and at the time I was visiting my relatives. My mom and the 2 young children were going to pick him up from the airport due to someone crashing his car. The fastest pass was a dark one, so it was hard to see sometimes. The entitled Dad was drunk going in the car, and my mother got in a huge fight about it in the car. Remember, there are also kids in this car. The entitled Dad wanted to shut her up, so he punched her in the head and they swerved. Then he does the most unbelievable thing. He calls the police and plays victim. Fortunately for my mother, she has a spotless record while he has been accounted for many things. And the police finally arrive. He says, "Oh, police, wonderful. This woman, I'm sadly to say, is my wife. She ran the car into the tree since I did not let her get vodka when the kids are in the car. She's mentally ill and is obviously trying to encourage my kids to drink at a young age." Then mom says to him, "You're the drunk one. I'm perfectly fine, but my head not so much. Don't listen to her. She's trying to kill me." At this point, he had won and the police didn't think twice about checking her head before they started to press charges. My mother has to pay most of the child support instead of half and give the entitled Dad money as well. I changed that and I'm glad that I have a voice, because the moment I got home, I demanded to be driven to the police station. The police at first thought it was a joke since I was smiling. So I gave them a disc glare and did not blink. Not even once. I tell them, "Sir, what gives you the right to press charges against my mother without knowing her side of the story?" Of course, she was completely unable to defend herself at that stage of time for her current condition. Her head was punched by the entitled Dad. I went on and the police were surprised at how well I delivered my claim. They finally checked in. After learning of previous situations happening with an officer off duty, he was actually sent to do some jail time. Now he is somewhere in an apartment drunk, sulking in the corner. And I finally got that off my chest. Next story. Accuse me of stealing, you will lose everything. This happened way back in the dark ages, 1986. I was 21 at the time and working for a gas station that was associated with a certain grocery store chain in Washington state. It was owned by a company not affiliated with said chain, but had locations at nearly every one. As this was long before the days of debit cards, this was a cash-only gas station. We didn't even take credit cards. Customers would pull up, pump their gas, and then come to my window to pay. We also sold cigarettes. No drinks, no snacks. Customers couldn't even get into my booth. I had been working there for about a year when the company announced it was closing the location. My manager and I were offered positions at another location upstate, and we both accepted. We moved our respective families and started our new jobs as new hires. This station was incredibly busy. We did more business in 8 hours than my old location would do in a week. This location also had a different setup. Here you would pull into the station from a single entrance, pump your gas and then drive forward to a single exit where the pay here post was located. There were always 2 cashiers on duty. Each cashier had a cash drawer. One thing I should note, there were also no computers. So closing the drawer down between shifts was time-consuming and tedious. We had to manually count the cigarettes remaining and count the cash drawers. We would fill out an end-of-shift report listing the starting balances. We also had to list the gallons sold from each pump. At the end of the shift, the total of gallons sold and the total cigarettes sold should equal the cash balance. It is important to know here that not once in a year I had worked for the previous location had I been off by more than 10 cents. The following morning after my first shift, I was informed by the manager that I was short $50. Impossible, I said. I balanced out yesterday. He said that I must have stolen that money after I had completed the paperwork. I just looked at him and said no, I didn't. He gave me a verbal warning and said if it happened again, I will be fired and the stolen money would be deducted from my paycheck this week. In the 5 days that followed, I realized quickly the manager was up to something. My old manager, who was just another worker now, was also accused of stealing, as was one other new employee. I cannot vouch for the other employee, but I'm pretty sure she did nothing wrong. The employees that have been there a while were never accused of anything. I did some check-in and found out this manager was relatively new, had only been there about 6 months, and the other cashiers had been here before him. Only new cashiers were being accused of stealing, and that location had been having stealing problems for about 6 months, and the turnover was high with the new employees. I came to work at 6 a.m. on a Monday only to be told I was being fired. The manager accused me of taking $500 out of my drawer the previous Friday. He said he only discovered it this morning, even though he had worked Saturday and Sunday. I said okay and left. I was pretty angry. Instead of going home, I parked in the grocery store parking lot and proceeded to settle in to watch the gas station. I knew that at 9 a.m. sharp, he would take the cash in the safe and make the weekend deposit. At 9 a.m., he left the gas station, headed to the bank. But instead of walking into the bank, he walked into the Indian casino next door. It is not a casino like we think of today, but more of a betting parlor for the races. It did have slot machines, but no card tables. I think to myself, well, this is interesting. He comes out of the casino at exactly 10 a.m., walks next door to the bank, does his business and then heads back to the gas station. And I head home with a plan. Every morning I follow him from the gas station to the casino. I take a picture of him leaving and one of him arriving at the bank and walking into the casino. I take pictures of him coming out and then heading to the bank. I do this for 5 days straight. He even went on Saturday. On day 3, my old manager was fired for stealing $150. I get the film developed, no digital camera in the dark ages, note the times and dates on the back of each one, and then I call the main office of the gas station. It is after 5, but I'm hoping someone is there. And there is. I speak to a woman and explain my situation, and she says she knows exactly who I should speak to and transfers me. By some grace of God, she has transferred me to none other than the president/CEO of the company. I tell him my story and tell him I did not steal from his company and could prove who actually did. He took down my information and said he will be in touch. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right. The next morning I went to the station to perform my usual observation of the manager. At 9 a.m. he leaves for the bank. At 10 a.m. he comes out. At the moment, 2 stern-looking gentlemen approach him. One pulls out his wallet and shows him something and the other one is talking. The manager goes bail and takes a step back. Next thing I know, he's being escorted to a car I hadn't noticed and they drive off. I lose them at a traffic signal, so they all show back up after 5 minutes later, and a few minutes after that a police cruiser pulls in. The officer talks to the stern gentleman and proceeds to place the manager in handcuffs. The other man says nothing but is glaring daggers at the manager. The president called me later that afternoon and informed me that the manager had been arrested for embezzlement. Turns out that in 6 months he had managed to steal about $5,000. He would take the store cash into the casino and gamble with it. If he won, he would make the normal bank deposit. If he lost, he would make the deposit and note in his records that we had been short the previous day. The CEO had already been focusing on that location because of the stealing and high turnover rate. But my information helped them figure out what exactly had been going on. I was thanked and sent a substantial check as a reward. My old manager was offered the manager's job, and I was offered my old job back. I declined as I had already found another job that I liked more and paid better. The gambling manager was sentenced to 1 year in jail and ordered to attend counseling for his gambling addiction. His wife divorced him and took their 3 children to California. His house was foreclosed on and he ended up in a homeless shelter. Do not accuse me of stealing. I will definitely come back for revenge. Next story. If you're unhappy with it, sue me. Okay then. Something happened to me today that made me remember the story and I thought it would fit well on this sub. Onto the story. This happened circa 2013. I used to have my hair dyed in a lot of different colors. Think pink, purple, green, blue, all the colors in the rainbow. And I always took pride in my hair. I won't have false modesty. I have pretty awesome hair, so well taken care of, that people started asking me what my upkeep was. Because of that, I started a blog to tell what I did to my hair. And in that blog, I posted photos of my hair adventures. Obviously, it wasn't huge, I didn't have that many followers. I was in the low hundreds, not a big blogger in any way imaginable. It was just for fun. One day I received a message from a friend saying that he saw a photo of me in a catalog of some brand of hair dye, congratulating me. I was surprised and kinda miffed about it. I asked him to take some pictures of the catalog and send them to me. And there it was. A photo I had uploaded to my blog. Immediately I went to the company's website and took a look at the online catalog. And there it was again. I sent an email to the company asking them to take it down. They couldn't just use my photo for advertising. No answer. I sent a message on their Facebook page telling them the same thing I said in an email. But less politely, I must admit. This time I got an answer. They could send me a few bottles of dye. I could even choose the colors they would send. It was a good exposure. Why was I so mad about it? Well, the thing is, I don't know how it works in other countries. But here we have something called diritto d'immagine. It means that no one can use your image without your authorization, especially if the person had monetary gain because of your image. I responded to their message saying that they should take everything down and pull every catalog that had my photo in it, that I haven't given authorization, so they couldn't use it. Simple as that. There was some back and forth, they saying that they wouldn't stop using my photo and it was good exposure, that I was greedy cause they had already made an offer to give me some products. And I'm saying adamantly that the photo must go. The head of marketing of the company messages me. Then she gets all cocky, saying that if I don't want the hair dye, I would get nothing, and that they did not do anything wrong. She said, If you're unhappy with the outcome, sue me. Okay, I will sue the company and you, personally, because you are the person responsible for the catalog. And she admitted that she was the one who designed it. Long story short, I did sue them. I won, and I was awarded a hefty sum. But I still haven't gotten paid because they took everything they owned out of their names and stopped using their bank accounts. This is more common than not in my country, unfortunately. The thing that brought this to memory is that she messaged me on Facebook today, asking me to make some sort of agreement with her because it's been hell. Her credit is destroyed and she can't use any bank account. She can't have anything to her name and it's been really hard on her. And that she's another victim of the company's owner. She basically asked me to stop pursuing payment. I forwarded everything to my lawyer and will let him handle everything. But I really wanted to say to her, I only did what you asked me to do. I sued you.